The Cleveland Browns woke up to chaos the moment Myles Garrett made it clear that the franchise's future should be built around Shedeur Sanders. What started as a dominant, record-setting night on the field quickly turned into a franchise-defining moment off it. Garrett didn't whisper his stance behind closed doors. The message was loud, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. After watching Shedeur carve up defenses with precision, confidence, and leadership, Garrett reportedly pushed the front office to stop hedging and fully commit. No more half measures, no more mixed timelines. Build around the quarterback who just proved he can carry pressure like a veteran. This wasn't emotional hype, it was football logic. Garrett, the face of Cleveland's defense and one of the most respected voices in the locker room, understands windows better than most. Championship windows don't wait, they demand clarity. And Shedeur's record night, marked by elite reads, fast processing, and command at the line, sent a message to players across the roster. This wasn't potential anymore, this was production.
You're a young guy, trying to be a leader is the fact that you really don't understand or realize if you have that platform. You just kind of have to be given to you. You kind of have to be pushed into it or guided into it. Let yourself be that person, have that role, and that's by us as veterans enabling that. Those younger guys, those first, second, third year guys, let them know that this is our team just as much as it's yours. Take ownership of it, and don't be afraid to say what's on your mind. If you see something, say something. This game, like I said, it goes by quick. So we can't be mincing words just because we're scared to say something or you don't feel like you have the right yet. Everyone.
The timing made it explosive. On the same night Garrett was delivering one of the most dominant defensive performances of his career, Shedeur was doing the same on the other side of the ball. Defense and offense finally synced, energy matched, momentum aligned. Veterans in the locker room noticed the shift immediately. There was belief in the air, not hope, belief. That's why the call to trade Dillon Gabriel hit the conversation instantly. Not because Gabriel lacked talent, but because the direction became obvious. Two timelines can't coexist. One leader has to own the room. Garrett's stance wasn't personal, it was structural. Teams that win don't juggle identities. They choose one and go all in. Around the league, the reaction was instant. Analysts, former players, and scouts recognized the significance. When a franchise cornerstone like Garrett speaks this clearly, front offices listen. This wasn't social media noise, this was a power move inside the building. Shedeur Sanders didn't just have a good game. He delivered a statement performance that rewired Cleveland's internal calculus overnight.
And just tell him to keep his head up. I know there was one drive in which he kind of walked off, and I saw him. He was putting his head down. He was kind of thinking about, I know he wants to make the play. He wants to, have that game-changing drive because, he feels like he has that ability, and we've seen it. So, don't be discouraged from one drive or two drives. It's a good football team over there. So, just trying to keep him to keep his confidence high, and keep on chasing that standard which he set. And we're gonna continue to support him. He spoke after the game, and he wanted to pin it on himself and his performance, but we're not gonna allow him to do that. It's a team game, so we're all in this together.
He addressed the entire team in the locker room.
The stat line barely captures the impact. What stood out was control, tempo, command. Every drive looked intentional. Every adjustment came fast. Defensive looks didn't rattle him. Pressure didn't speed him up. That's rare at any level, let alone in a moment carrying this much weight. Receivers were in the right spots. Protections were clean because the quarterback set them. Audible calls hit perfectly. This was a quarterback running the show, not surviving it. Coaches on the sideline trusted him. Linemen responded to him. That's leadership currency, and it spends fast in locker rooms. The record itself added fuel. Franchise marks falling under bright lights changed perception instantly. Multiple defensive coordinators around the league flagged the tape the same night. Not because of flashy throws, but because of decision-making. The ball came out on time. Progressions were clean. Risk was calculated. That's how games are won in January. Myles Garrett saw it up close. Defensive players know when a quarterback is legit because they face them every day in practice. They recognize anticipation, pocket movement, and confidence before the rest of the world catches up. That's why Garrett's reaction carried weight. It wasn't fandom, it was evaluation. The buzz spread beyond Cleveland. Media narratives flipped from interesting prospect to centerpiece. Jersey sales spiked overnight, but more importantly, belief inside the building solidified. When teammates believe the quarterback can deliver, everything sharpens, practice intensity rises, accountability tightens, standards elevate. This wasn't about one night, it was about confirmation. The Browns finally saw proof that the future wasn't hypothetical. It was standing right there, calling plays, taking hits, and answering every challenge thrown at him. Once Shedeur's performance reset the hierarchy, the Dillon Gabriel conversation stopped being awkward and started being inevitable. Cleveland's front office had already debated the overlap for weeks. Two capable quarterbacks create insurance, but they also create friction. Teams chasing championships don't live in maybe, they commit. Gabriel's skill set had value, no doubt. Mobility, experience, consistency. But the ceiling conversation changed overnight. Shedeur wasn't just executing plays, he was elevating everyone around him. That's the separator. That's why franchises move on from solid options to build around stars. The locker room dynamic mattered too. Players gravitated naturally towards Shedeur after the record night. That doesn't mean disrespect to Gabriel. It means clarity. Football rooms follow confidence and command. Once that momentum starts, trying to pause it only creates confusion. Financial math also played a role. Rookie scale economics combined with upside make front offices ruthless. Building around Shedeur frees resources. Resources protect quarterbacks. Protection wins games. The cycle is simple and brutal. Trading Gabriel wasn't an indictment, it was an alignment. Cleveland chose acceleration over caution. That's why Myles Garrett's stance mattered so much. Defensive stars don't usually lobby for offensive decisions unless they see something special. Garrett saw sustainability. He saw a quarterback who could keep the defense fresh, flip field position, and close games late. League insiders weren't shocked. Multiple teams already checked in on Gabriel's availability the moment Shedeur took control. That's how fast perception shifts in the NFL. One night changes everything. The ripple didn't stop with the roster. Ownership felt it too. Jimmy Haslam has chased stability for years, cycling through visions and resets. This moment felt different. It wasn't a gamble, it was a convergence, a quarterback peaking, a defense anchored by an elite leader, a roster ready to compete now. Haslam understands optics, but he understands revenue too. Star quarterbacks change franchises financially and culturally. Ticket demand, global interest, media relevance. Shedeur's name already carries weight beyond the field, and Cleveland felt the surge instantly. Andrew Berry's challenge became execution, not evaluation. The direction was clear. Build the offense to maximize Shedeur. Scheme protection, add speed, keep the defense dominant, align timelines. That's how contenders are built. Garrett's public stance accelerated the process. It signaled unity. When ownership sees locker room leaders aligned with football ops, decisions get easier, resistance fades, momentum builds. This wasn't drama. It was strategy playing out in real time. Cleveland stopped reacting and started committing. That shift alone separates contenders from pretenders. By the end of the week, the message around the league was locked in. Cleveland chose a lane and floored it. Myles Garrett's demand wasn't reckless. It was prophetic. Shedeur Sanders earned the keys with performance, poise, and leadership that can't be coached. Off-season planning is already centered on maximizing this pairing. A generational defender and a quarterback with command. That's how balance is created. That's how windows stay open. The Browns aren't experimenting anymore. They're executing. The rest of the league is officially on notice. The moment Myles Garrett made his stance public, the Browns stopped floating between possibilities and locked into a direction. This was no longer a theory or a quiet internal debate. Cleveland chose momentum over hesitation, clarity over comfort, and leadership over politics. Internal meetings that once circled around development timelines suddenly shifted to win-now execution. That shift alone changed the entire tone of the organization. Shedeur Sanders' emergence forced hard decisions, and Cleveland didn't flinch. The front office understood that championship teams don't sit on fences. They pick a core and reinforce it aggressively. Garrett's message echoed through every department. Defense is ready, the locker room is aligned, and the quarterback position finally has gravity. That kind of alignment doesn't happen often, and when it does, smart franchises act fast. Coaches adjusted quickly. Offensive meetings began centering on tempo control, route timing, and pocket efficiency built specifically around Shedeur's strengths. Protection schemes tightened. Play designs emphasized anticipation and spacing. This wasn't cosmetic change, it was structural. Veterans noticed immediately. Practice intensity jumped, accountability sharpened. Players started treating reps like postseason snaps because belief had replaced uncertainty. That's the difference between rosters that compete and rosters that collapse under pressure. Trading Dillon Gabriel became symbolic more than strategic. It signaled trust. It told the locker room that leadership had been chosen and the future was no longer split. That kind of message stabilizes teams faster than any speech ever could. League executives took note. Cleveland, long criticized for indecision, suddenly looked decisive. That alone flipped national narratives. Analysts stopped asking what if and started asking how far. Momentum doesn't just build on the field, it builds in perception, and perception shapes officiating, coverage, and respect. This chapter wasn't about hype, it was about structure. Cleveland didn't crown Shedeur because of buzz. They committed because everything finally aligned. The Browns didn't stumble into a new era, they stepped into it with intention. Every great franchise has a blueprint, and Cleveland's is now obvious. Myles Garrett on defense, Shedeur Sanders on offense, power and poise, pressure and precision. The pairing has already become the internal standard for how the team evaluates leadership. Not loud, not flashy, just relentless execution. Garrett's dominance sets a tone that quarterbacks feel across the league. When opposing offenses rush throws, Shedeur benefits. Short fields appear, momentum swings. This is complementary football at its finest. Shedeur's presence returns the favor. Sustained drives keep Garrett fresh. Clock control limits defensive exposure. Fourth quarter leads allow the defense to hunt. That's how elite teams close games, not survive them. Coaching staffs build dreams around pairings like this. It allows specialization without imbalance. The offense doesn't need to score 40 every week. The defense doesn't need to be perfect. They meet in the middle and squeeze opponents until mistakes pile up. Younger players are already modeling habits after both leaders. Preparation, film study, accountability. Culture spreads faster when it's visible, and both Garrett and Shedeur make it visible every day. Cleveland's front office understands the window is real. Roster construction now revolves around durability, speed, and flexibility. Protect the quarterback. Rotate the defense. Add situational weapons. Strip away excess. This is chess, not checkers. The league sees it too. Opponents game plan differently. Media tone shifts. Cleveland isn't treated like a punchline anymore. Respect changes everything, especially in tight games decided by inches. This blueprint isn't flashy, but it's deadly. It's built for January football, cold weather, tight margins, relentless pressure. Cleveland finally looks like a team that knows exactly who it is. The NFL didn't wait long to respond. Within days of Cleveland's pivot, analysts, scouts, and executives acknowledged the shift. Rival front offices circled Cleveland on future schedules as a problem matchup. That alone speaks volumes. Media narratives flipped fast. The Browns were no longer discussed as a rebuild or experiment. They were framed as a contender with structure. That kind of respect doesn't come from press releases. It comes from tape. Shedeur Sanders became central to league-wide conversations, not as hype, but as a solution. Analysts highlighted processing speed, pocket discipline, and command under pressure. These aren't rookie traits. These are franchise traits. Myles Garrett's influence grew as well. Defensive Player of the Year chatter intensified. His leadership off the field matched his destruction on it. Cleveland's defense became the standard, not just a strength. Free agents began paying attention. Veterans chased stability and opportunity. Cleveland suddenly offers both. That changes offseason conversations dramatically. The Browns' schedule no longer looks intimidating internally. Confidence breeds preparation. Preparation breeds execution. Execution breeds wins. This isn't arrogance, it's readiness. Cleveland's window is open, and the league knows it. The pairing of Garrett and Shedeur represents balance the Browns have chased for decades. This isn't a flash, it's a foundation. The era is no longer coming, it's here. Support the work by hitting like and subscribe to stay locked in for what comes next.